Hello, I'm back with Mickey Mousecapade. I am playing the Famicom version, and which has a couple of differences between, with various enemy sprites, bosses, and even the power-up weapons themselves. Other than that, we'll be starting. Start time in 3, 2, 1, go. So Minnie is your partner, but you don't. But she actually isn't vulnerable to any enemies in the game, only except pits. But if she falls in one, then your life automatically goes away as well. You initially don't start the game until you don't even start the game with a weapon, which you need via those chests. A lot of the enemies that are in the game are positioned in rooms in completely different places every time. There are various obstacles where if it's cleared, if they're touched, then they could have a couple of different effects. Enemies could disappear, like that. Yeah, health can be refilled, but it depends on what item shows up. Also, in the fun house, or little house in this version, or the castle, if there are certain areas that you click on fire at, if you actually take a death in the little house or the castle, you wind up on the bottom portion of the screen. So if you fire at certain areas, some areas are good to fire, like this, because there's an extra life, but there's only 2 of them in the entire game. But then there are other areas that, if you happen to uncover a hidden area, it might be a particular bird that carries Minnie away, and you can't finish the level without Minnie. There's a second chest to the left, but we'll get that after dealing with the pseudo boss of this level. And I say pseudo because you actually need the key to get out of the level to begin with. This game basically has a lot of enemies from a couple of different Disney films. Whereas the US version has a set of generic enemies. That's never a good start. But we'll be fine. So now we have a bit more health to play with. We'll just get rid of the boss now, so we have the key. Now it is to be said that if Mickey and Minnie sprite, and mostly any enemies that are bigger than them, bosses especially, is a one-hit KO. Basically almost any enemy that's bigger than them in some form or fashion is a one-hit KO, or it takes tons of health. So now 2 rooms to the left, we have what's called the troll chest. You have a 50% chance of getting Minnie's star, like this, or it could be a bird. So since we have that, instead of making our way all across the fun house, we'll just take this death abuse so we can wind up on the lower part. And we just travel the last 2 rooms down to finish the level, where we initially started, which we needed the key for. Funhouse usually is about this bad, but sometimes it's worse just because of the troll chest. Now we have the ocean, and this is where you initially have to worry about Minnie falling into a pit. Only here and in the woods. Oh, that's unusual. There's also an invulnerability that could show up, but it doesn't last long. It's really only beneficial in the woods. Also, aside from the sprites being different from the US version, your health starts off significantly much lower. Now for the second boss, you don't want to go across this small ridge. But as long as you have a decent amount of... If you have mini star, it helps with your ammo. So the boss will take a lot more hits much quicker. And now for everybody's favored level, maybe, the woods, which consists of 5 different areas. There are various areas where you need to hit the tree bark in order to go to the next season. You start in spring and end up past winter. You can skip from spring to fall by bypassing this entrance and taking this hidden. But while we're here, here's another vulnerability for us. So we could use this to bypass the worst enemy in the game. Some of these Tweedledee and Tweedledum, or the bears, depending on which version you're playing. We bypass from, now this is probably the worst spot in the game for the bears / Tweedledee and Tweedledum. While they are not a one-hit KO, they do take tons of health. Now there are certain entrances where you can get sent forward to the next corresponding season, or you can actually be sent back, which is not a great thing. But once you get to the final section that's not season related, then you don't have to worry about that anymore, unless you game over. I should have grabbed that particular... Oh, there we go. Now we have full health. So in this particular season, you have to go one loop.
Sorry, I know I mentioned coming back for one more revenge attempt at Russian attack.
Now this particular flower always has an extra life in it, so we'll just take that just in case. Now my hope is that there may be an invulnerability in one of these ending flowers before the boss. If so, as close as humanly possible, the invincibility will last until the end screen transition. So we could just use it for the snake or caterpillar for a one-hit KO. Normally, maybe about 90% of runs, it's rare to get an invincibility at the end. So if you get one, consider yourself very lucky. Neverland / the pirate ship is the shortest level in the game, but the few enemies that are here take tons of health. Don't even bother trying to get rid of these miniature pirates, but do get rid of this particular enemy that shoots out faces. But do not go in contact with him because he's a one-hit KO. So you have some options to fight Captain Hook or Peg-Leg Pete. Since we have Mini Star, and she's invulnerable, aka using the Game Genie code, let's just let her do the work. And that clears the pirate ship. And we have one more level left, the Queen's Palace. About as long as the fun house at the very beginning, which you need a key just to reach the boss. If you see any diamonds or sunsoft bees, those are fine to pick up, but if there's anything else that's hidden, you may not want to shoot it because it will be a bird that will take away Minnie, and you'll have to go in another room to uncover the room. And if that does happen, you have a 1 in 4 chance of maintaining Minnie back, depending on which statue you pick. No fastball. Once you get to the on this particular version, once you get to the end of the game, you'll notice that you have the max health. This is also the amount of health you start with in the US version. Now it also should be noted that if you fight the queen and you either you lose a life, or if you accidentally walk out the door, you'll be transported back to the room where the key was. A good note of thumb in this level is to press down so that Minnie will stay about in place with you, so that she doesn't trail too far. Now, unlike last time we had to fight Pete, Peglet Pete, or Captain Hook, you could just send Minnie to get rid of him. But now, just take a dagger, use the iframes and bypass, and we'll just take a death in this room. We go down here. Get rid of the Queen's Servant. Time will be coming up when this boss is defeated. And we just want to make sure we can have a consistent jump pattern while we fire. And that's time. Oops, sorry. And while we go through all of this to supposedly maybe save or rescue Minnie, she's just sitting under a tree taking a nap. I mean, Alice. And other than that, that's Mickey Mousecapade. And stay tuned for the next run.